he was getting Social Security for our parents being passed away, and the money that he was getting, like she was keeping, and I was getting depressed. I was just wanting to at times give up, and so back to hustling is what I would do, and it kept biting me in the rear end because I would go back to prison for a second time and a third time. I had ended up going and getting court ordered to a rehabilitation center down in Boynton Beach, and my daughter was born while I was in there. This is Rocky Truth, and you're watching the Rocky Truth podcast. He was in Pensacola, and I was coming to Pensacola as soon as I got out of jail. I made the move to Pensacola, and when I came, like I said, we had an aunt that was married to my uncle who passed, and she was a nurse up here at the local hospital. And I moved to her house, and my brother, we were together again, but it became different issues to where I seen that she wasn't giving him like his money from he was getting Social Security for our parents being passed away, and the money that he was getting, like she was keeping, and it wasn't fair to him. I didn't believe, and he was, going with the bare minimum, and it was enough for him to be wearing good clothes and eating better than he was, and I was doing my thing up here trying to find a job and whatnot, which was really hard with my record. And so, all of these years had passed of me and my brother was just trying to find our way. And she ended up telling me that, my aunt told me that there wasn't enough room, that I was only able to stay there for like a month. So then she told me I had to go, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I was in the streets, and even though she knew that, there wasn't, what happened to the aunt that was there for us and the only family member we had left, what happened to that? Like, did you just decide that you weren't that person anymore? I mean, it really, it kind of messed me up. Because I was like, this is the last surviving thing that we got going on, and as far as family, and now you're hitting us with the wishy-washy stuff. And so I was kicked out. I was just floating around from people that I had met here in town, and then come to find out, she kicks my brother out. My brother's not even 18 years old, and because he approached her about his money and his Social Security, and then it was coming to him, but in care of him, to her name. So because he was a minor, so and we weren't expecting her to just hand him the money, but he had enough money to be able to take care of himself and to have better than, it was just very poor living. And with her being a nurse and whatnot, it's like her children were fine, but what was up with my brother? And the same thing with me, but I was grown, so, I wasn't looking for any handouts or anything, so I was going to the street, and then my brother's like calls me up and he's like, bro, she kicked me out, and so I'm like, okay, so now here we go, me and my brother again. And things that happened, there were drugs involved. I was on drugs, in and out of different feelings in my life, and I was, I was getting depressed. I was, just wanting to at times give up. And it was like my brother, we would feed off of each other, because he still looked up to me like he did that day when we got dropped off on the side of the road, like, big bro, like I was still that guy, and I feel I since my father told us, please promise me to stay together. That's what it was. And I wasn't going to fall back on that. I wasn't going to go back on that. That was what I stood on. And so with him being out there with me, we were just hopping around from place to place. I ended up getting in trouble because, like I said, I was having a hard time getting a job, and then so I would get in trouble for either selling like drugs or something related. It was a plethora of things, and it wasn't because I was just, oh, this is cool. This is stemming back from my reputation. Is already built on certain things, but it was all for the greater good of us, and I could have done some things differently, and I know now what I kind of knew then, but at the time it was I needed immediate results. Like, we were needing to eat, we were needing clothes, we were needing shelter, we were doing, we needed stuff then, so I had to act then, and it didn't always work out, you know, good. It it just it was what it was, and it became certain things that got me in trouble and got me. I got incarcerated. I got sent to prison. My brother would hop around from friend to friend, and he would try to do as best as he could from with me, coming up with me, and seeing things and different things which weren't, like I said, they weren't always good. So he picked up some of the bad things, but he was, we were just trying to get by, and I got out of prison and would get back with my brother, and we would, he was having apartments, and he was doing different good for himself. He was making ends meet, and without hurting anybody, and it was he had met some good friends that he ended up going into high school with when before he left my aunt's, before she kicked him out. And so it was a whole variety of stuff, back and forth, and then like I said, I got out, and then we would live together, and I would try to make something work, and I'd work a under the table job or whatever, and then the money would come short, and so back to hustling is what I would do, and it kept biting me in the rear end, because I would go back to prison for a second time and a third time, and I knew. My brother kept telling me, I'm out here by myself, and bro, I need you to, I need you here with me. And I'm thinking in my head, I gotta find a different way. And I was just, I was at a loss. I didn't know how to make ends meet anymore, and I got discouraged. And it's like there were times when me and him would be like, bro, like, when are we gonna catch a break? Like, when are we? We're not looking for no, but I mean, when are we gonna find our purpose? Our identity, who we are. Like, we've got each other, but it's like us against the world. And in the meantime, I had different. I had been in relationships with different women, and I would, looking for some kind of closure, looking for some kind of, not but some kind of secure, feeling, just any kind of attention, love, like both of us. And we were just reaching out, and we reach out to, my brother would try to find him girlfriends, I'd try to find me some girlfriends, and then we would just, looking for any kind of, just compassion and affection, should I say. So I ended up, I had a child on the way by a girl that I used to be with, and I thought that that was gonna change it, because I had previously had relationships before I moved up here to Pensacola with girls, and you know, there was girls that said that I had their child, this and that, but there was never ever one that wanted to go get DNA tests and this and that. So I didn't know if they just wanted money or what it was. So to this day, you know, I don't know their motive, what they would, you know. I've made myself available, so I just know that, you know, stuff had happened, but I do know that I had a child on the way, and this was legit. This was, you know, this is what I knew it was mine, and I had ended up going and getting court ordered to a rehabilitation center down in Boynton Beach, and my daughter was born while I was in there, and it, when I talked to the mother on the phone and I heard my baby, I didn't. That was the first time I had any kind of feeling that I had had since when me and my brother were kids, and that true happiness that I remember, that when the family was still together and before they had passed on, I felt a hint of that, and it was deep and it was real. And what was funny was it happened to my brother when my daughter was born too. It's almost like he had a child as well with somebody, because he took to my daughter like it was his own, and he loved her so much, and I loved her so much, and I just, but I was caught up making bad decisions. I got out of the rehab. I seen and moved back to Pensacola. Seen, you know, my daughter, held her for the first time, and I thought this was the game changer. Well, sadly to say, it wasn't the game changer. Things continued on. The streets continued on. We continued to be in and out of them, me and my brother. And I would always try to see my daughter, and if there was anything I could do during those times. But I knew that the way I was living and the way I was getting money at times and the way things were happening, that I could have had her around me, but I was not going to bring her through that. You know, there was no way I was going to involve her in that and risk a perfect little child into any of the ways of the world, which a lot of them are bad. And so my brother and I, we continued to do that back and forth. Just everything was unstable. Like, my daughter was growing up. You know, I found out recently that I had a son that she had a brother, my daughter had a brother, and then I had a son by the same girl. And they had, while I was incarcerated, they had taken him into a foster home, and somebody adopted him. And I for the longest, I didn't know that. And then recently, not too long ago, I found out. And the whole time that, you know, I'm thinking I'm a father and something's got to give, and what but I didn't want, you know, I distanced myself from my child, and I know now that, you know, I talk to her on a regular basis right now, you know, God willing. It's a blessing because I get to speak to her. And my brother, like I said, that little girl was his everything. And things happened to where, you know, I was in jail one time, and my brother, while I was out, he had moved to Minnesota to an old friend that he had went to high school with here. And he said that, you know, when your brother gets out of jail, that he can come up here and y'all can start up over in Minnesota. And so he talked to me on the phone. My brother's like, when you get out, bro, I got you a plane ticket. I'm up here. He's doing good. I mean, he's thriving up there. It's good. He said it's a great place. It's like a hidden gem. Like this city, like where it was the Chanhassen, Minnesota, where the artist Prince is from. And matter of fact, so when I came up there, you know, he was working a good job through a temp service, and I came up there and I got on a job with him, and you know, we were doing really, really well in Minnesota, and you know, we were going to the gym every day, and we were like, bro, you know, he was like, bro, we made it. I think we're starting to find some peace. Well, you know, Minnesota was so good to us that, I couldn't believe that life could be this good. We were like I said, we were working out every day. We were feeling good about ourselves. We were in shape. We were working good jobs. It wasn't just, digging dirt for minimum wage. I mean, we had good jobs. We were learning like different trades, and the place was beautiful. And I mean, I would cry at night because I was happy, and I'd look over, and we'd be in, we were staying in weekly at the motel rooms there, close to his buddy, and just getting acclimated with the place. But I would look over at my brother, he'd be sleeping. We got two beds in the motel room, and I just cry, and I'd be like, man, he's a grown man now, he's a grown man, and I'm just like, man, what he did for me to get us out of there, and it just to see him next to me, and I was like, Dad, we're still together. We're still together. And this was, in 2017, and we were still together. Thanks for watching the Rocky Truth Podcast.